Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing Live, show number 562. I am your host, Lauren Gray. Welcome to beautiful Netherlands. We've been here for several weeks now. It is a gorgeous day and felt that it was wonderful to make it outside and get the bright light, blue sky. It's pretty. It's 60 degrees. It's 55 degrees. It's just nice. So thank you again for joining us live. For everyone that's joining us around the world. In 209 countries, there are hospitality channel broadcasts live in 209 countries, a radio station in 39 countries. We also simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. So we try to hit all the channels. We really haven't done Twitter for lots of reasons. We may go back to it. I don't know. It seems to have settled down. We'll see. Anyways, today is actually an active live frontline conversation that I'm having in Hospitality Marketing Club, which is our peer level hospitality marketing group. If you are hospitality marketing, you're more than welcome to join. Just go to hospitalitymarketing.club, put your email in. I'll send you an invitation, or I'll send you a quiz to validate that you are indeed a current hospitality marketer. That's what you do. And then you get to come in and join which peer groups you'd like to go to. So we're having an active conversation right now. There's a lot of platforms that are coming out right now trying to quantify what they're doing for their clients for AI discovery. And of course, that's all prompt tracking. It's been around since last year, where we were excited about it when it first came out as, man, crack into the mystery of what's going on. It's just hard. It's like self-fulfilling. If you are looking for a prompt to be used, by the very fact that you're using the prompt to find if everybody's using the prompt, it actually uses the prompt, which means there's some relevance to its value. But there's never been a quantifiable way to say, what is our audience size? How many people are we really getting with this prompt, or these prompts being tracked as to whether or not they're actually being used, or how much are they being used, or how many people are potentially using them. It's silly as it sounds, but some vendors have actually just simply gone to the platforms themselves, the LLMs themselves, and said, hey, how many people are using your platform for this prompt? It's kind of like self-reporting. It's kind of I don't know if that's really going to be helpful. It's a made-up number. And then, of course, if you have any engagements with that prompt, then you're saying that that's your comparative use of that prompt in ratio to the total audience. You also get a very large spectrum as to how many people are using AI as a part of your traffic to discover your website. Which all brings us to, I've been going back and forth with what the title of today's show is. First was Commonality of Discovery, how SEO guides SEO traffic. I didn't think it was as directly relevant, so I kind of changed it to, what is the real audience size engaging with us on AI? And if we can define audience, then we can define our presence. Our presence means a ratio of percentage of voice. We've used that in several contexts for other platforms over the years, where if we know how many people are either in this space and how many people are seeing what we're doing to be in this space, then we have a ratio of value. Like, okay, so if we're 40% voice of the audience that we're tracking, and this is what we're generating, this is our cost, then we can create mathematics that show how much it will cost us to acquire more voice. And then, of course, calculate diminished value, whereas it gets more expensive the higher up to gain the last portions of that voice percentage we get to go to reach a diminished value of return and say, okay, it's not worth us to grow our audience past this. This gives us borderline metrics, top line audience, bottom line audience, and sense of voice. From that, we know successfully how much that channel or that process, that section of what we're attempting to do, Google Ads or whatever, is worth to us in that sense. So we know that at 40% it generates this much, at 50% it generates this much. So we know how much we can exercise that channel's contribution. Sorry if I went down a math rabbit hole for that. But in AI, we can't. We think by doing proper schema, which is mandate for everything, regardless, we should be doing it anyway. And it's great that we've had discussions where now this new awareness value of schema again has come back into play. It's back in vogue. And so because of that, everybody's doing more of it, which helps SEO tremendously. And of course, the uses of language models use it as well. That's a given. The other part of it is if we're accurate with our content, being what people are looking for or have the validity of content that is being used for, then we know that we gain a presence of voice that drives traffic, which improves our business performance. I'd like to get into a little bit of the variations between the differences of SEO and the differences of how long language models work. Now, I scroll all the way up to my notes of things here. So going into the SEO values, these are old things that everybody knows. Okay, we know that they crawl pages. SEO is constantly out there looking for content and so forth. They index keywords, as in the sense of what words are more primarily used, which words have more value to those pages as they find it. They rank the pages based on the authority of that content, not just the number of keyword usages and things back in the old days. That used to be a way of getting around it. It's more now of how well in context that keyword is being used, its authority, its relevance, the connections to it, the speed of the page. And this is all SEO stuff. Nothing new, nothing should surprise you from our conversations to this. And then SEO provides as a resource back a list of links, our SERP pages, our search engine result pages. Here's the highest to the lowest in the value proposition of what you're querying for. The long language models rely heavily on probabilistic relationships. They're not looking for the authentication of the keyword or the validation of the, they're not searching and gathering and accumulating the data as SEO does. They're looking for patterns, things that are related to each other. That authoritative relationship of seeing frequency, of seeing relevancy, seeing usability, seeing validations, associated authorities, other places in coordination to what you have as content and how they point towards you. Kind of linkish in that way, but not as the same primary function as SEO. And from that, they synthesize an answer. Instead of creating a list of links or a list of alternatives, they synthesize an answer based on, okay, from what I've seen and how this is related and what you're intending to ask me about, or what I think you're intending me to ask me about, I think this is relevant, and because of that, this is going to be used in my answer to the query that you're giving me on the LLM. That's how LLMs work. Okay, they combine different retrieval seasons. They require different reasoning layers as to, is this valid or not valid? Should we use it or not use it? There's a different process that LLMs use in comparison to SEO models. But what I'm thinking of, and what we've been discussing in our peer room, our Hospitality Marketing Club, is rather than just guessing at what we think is a number or asking the platform, hey, how many people are saying this, is to say, what is the commonalities between SEO and LLMs in the sense of content usage? Now, if you take keywords and say, okay, keywords are used for everything, and not to confuse what keywords are just the words we use for what we're looking for. We've labeled them keywords because each now, from any word being used to this word being used, identifies some value relationship of that word in context to our discovery. I'll give you an example of the differences between how discovering keywords on LLMs don't work compared to how they work in SEO. In SEO, if I'm looking for a hotel for families in Orlando, it will show potentially based on the keywords, my hotel, because I've indicated in my schema and in my content that I'm located in Orlando and so forth. And based on that, I may be in the query if I'm high ranking in SEO. In long language models, my question may be more related to, I'm traveling with my grandparents, my parents, and my kids to Orlando for a weekend vacation. Now, my hotel may show up because my content has something to do with multi-generational travel, may have to do with an aspect of any of those particular things. It may deal with the fact that we have a good content relationship to grandparent discovery, things to do and so forth, and that hook to what we were looking at probabilistically to our query gives us relevancy. And so an LLM might use our data and synthesize our data in an answer like, this is great things, blah, blah, blah. These are things to do. This hotel has been, it has this representation of being good for this, blah, 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 for grandparents. That's the variation. Now, the keywords themselves, the words were used, but not in the same way. So this is my math, or my thought about my math, is we're looking at LLMs and looking for prompt tracking that says, okay, so I'm going to track what people search for. I'm going to ask a prompt engine. I'm going to ask a LLM, what's a good prompt for if I'm traveling to Orlando with multi-generational families? And it may spew out a few combination prompts, one of which I may have mentioned. And we say, okay, great, let's put this into a platform that tracks if this is being used on the platform, if this is being used in this LLM, and if it is, then show that it happened. Now we know GA4 can track LLMs based on the traffic because they have a pretty persistent identifier of themselves as to when that traffic comes to our website. Now remember, LLMs don't provide a lot of direct links in their results right now. They're not like an SEO that shows up in multiple links or something. They give an answer, okay? And then you can ask, well, what's the website link? And you get the link from it. That consistent connection then comes over to the website, and there is enough of the UTM persistently to say, well, that came from ChatGPT, or this came from Perplexity, or from Claude. You can see that traffic, but you don't know what drove that traffic. You have no idea why that traffic came. So going back to the tracking on an LLM of prompts, we can see that the prompt may have been used in tracking the prompt itself, but we can't see that in relationship to that entrance into our website. We can see what the links in general did once they got to our website. GA4 will show that link in generative came over and it concluded with a purchase. Great. But what was the inspiration of that purpose is this unknown area. That's what we're trying to solve. So going back to my common factors associated with both platforms, keywords or words are used in both. Now, if we remember going back a few years, and it does actually go a few years, remember autocorrect, that ability to, as you're typing, autofill, I should say, not autocorrect. Autocorrect works a lot for me because it needs to. Bad spelling. Autofill, where you're looking at the autocomplete function. As you're typing in the address bar, it's trying to understand what your intent is of what you're asking. So it's giving you alternative words right in front of yours to say, oh, this is what you're asking about. Or, if I'm looking at a food thing and it says, oh, you want a recipe for that? Or you want a location for that? It's trying to be as helpful for you that you don't have to type as much. And it knows quantitatively better and more answers. If that's what you're looking for, it already has a good, faster way of finding those answers for you. So that autofill function, predictive search, okay, that's what it was really tethered to, is very, in my mind, asimilar to a lot of how long language models started and how they continue to work. It's long been said that long language models are predictive models of what the next word will be, just a lot like, in my mind, what autocomplete was in the search bars. And a lot of that has to do with word correlations and intent of the sequence. Now, search engines already have autofill and autocomplete in their methodology and in their structure. It's by the use of keywords, words. To me, long language models have that asimilarity. So my math competition to this says, well, what if we take words that we know are highly used for what we are, our location, our amenities, our name, our association things, all the things that are branded, non-branded for us. We know we already have keywords that we're using within Google ad campaigns and so forth, of words that are used by people on advertisement for us and on SEO discovery for us. We know that this is a parameter from knowing nothing about everything to knowing something about a thing. And so we have these words, this cluster of words, and we don't need the tens of thousands of words. That dilutes the impact. And one thing I've learned from long language models is the more variables you give it, or the depth, and this goes back to old statistical math, the more variables you allow in your math, the more ambiguous the result. The fewer variables, the more acute the result. So when you're looking to follow a path of discovery of getting an audience for long language models, it's not about a hyperbolic, long multi-word phrase, extended math, 15 variations of things to be included into it. It's better to be specifically concise in the process of what you're trying to track. Is this simple discovery function a measurable experience? Not grandpa, grandparents, parents, kids, family, medical requirements, travel interests, blah, blah, blah. You create so many variables, it begins to cloud and pattern out any probable use functions because there's too many options to consider and not enough prioritization between them to make designation values between this versus that since they're equally based as an option. So what I'm saying with keywords in relationship to long language models is keeping the specific word usages, not just L word, but the predictive search comparison of words. You don't put peanut butter grandparent together as an example. You will put travel grandparent or kids grandparent. There's commonalities of that predictive search that have already worked very successfully well in search engines. They can work very well with long language models if we define the parameters of the keywords and not to get excessively large in keywords. So say, for instance, you take your top 10, let's make these numbers small, top 10 exact match keywords. And you look at those keywords and look at the predictive search relationships of those exact words with other exact words. Trip, vacation, hotel, resort, location, whatever. There is keywords that are definitively put together. And these 2 or 3 keyword segments, and I would say no more than 3 keywords as a batch, okay? Because what you're now going to take with these keywords is you're going to look at their volume of value. Say there are 100,000 people each usage. So each word is 100,000 word usage. You look at putting them together and you get that maybe it's 200,000. Let's just keep it simple. A total of 100,000 where all 3 words are used together in some combination, in some context with other stuff. But these 3 words in combination, 100,000 is the audience size of this 3-word usage. So you take that and you have your value propositions, your conversion values, you have all these numbers for these keywords. So you know that you have more data behind just what we're using right now. And you say, okay, these 3 keywords, how would they be used in prompts? And you can ask that and say, well, quantitatively, develop prompts of high yieldability or high usage or realistic probability that the 3 words would be used in these prompts. You'll come up with a lot, but you would then try to rank volume against that usage. And that's where you get to do the same thing where, okay, what is the usage value of these? And say, for instance, you get a top 10 prompts using these combinations of 3 words. Well, now what you've done is you said in context. Now, this isn't including the other words that were added to the prompt, okay? And you keep the prompt specific to the category content of the words you're using. You don't try to go beyond the 3 words. You're simply saying, at least in these 10 prompts, there is a probable keyword audience of using these 3 keywords of 100,000. And we know the metrics of conversion, we know the metrics of value, we know the metrics of billing, all this other stuff. But we're not using that for right now. We're just saying, so these 10 prompts represent around 100,000 people in probable potential usage patterns. Now, track the use of these prompts on these platforms. And now you get a more relative value of a better stick in the sand. This is still not an accurate number, I don't think, yet, until we get more direct linked result values from long language models, which is not now, but future tense probably. But it gives us a good fencing around the probability of the audience. Because statistics and anything in the sense of formulas and forecasts, it relates on probability. We've had this discussion before. Anything can be possible, but the probability of it being possible is based on percentages. Anything over 85% is most likely. It's not accurate. It's not completely for certain. Even nothing's almost for certain. It's just 85% means it's most likely. Anything up above 70 is possibly. Anything below 70 is it has potential. Doesn't mean that'll happen, but it has potential. When you start defining this fencing that we're talking about by assigning keyword volumes in combinations, similar to what we used to do for predictive search, in combination with long language model, prompt discovery, prompt usage, you have a definable fenced audience that says it's 100,000 people are most likely potentially valued for this word usage. And we got 100 that used it. Okay, is that good or bad? Don't know. We haven't used these numbers this way to say, is that a realistic number, an unrealistic number? Are we missing it? Are we on the edge of something being bigger than what we got? Are we in a tide pool instead of the ocean of data? Don't know yet, but it is by far, in my mind, better than what we're currently looking at as options, which is, hey, well, how many times do you think you as a system are using this term? I don't know. I'll make up a number and give it to you, and you're going to believe it. That's what the LLMs are doing. There is no other way of measuring it. And like I said at the beginning, if you are only measuring the terms that you're chasing, you're self-fulfilling the interest or the value of those terms. You may come up with some really good terms, but those may not be the terms that are being used to engage with the content that you have. That's the hard part, is determining all the variables of how people discover. Because one thing that AI and long language models and generative search has done is it opens it up to the context of the user's interest. Where before we had to force them through a funnel of what we said, our navigation. You have to use certain words. You have to look for certain things. You have to do it in a certain process. That was what search used to do. We made the people conform to our usability. AI, long language models, generative search, is about how I ask a question. And we're getting better as we use AI on how to ask better questions. And I think that will improve our accuracy of how we're measuring prompts, because we know that certain prompts or certain ways people are finding it easier to use that prompt sequence, that prompt knowledge. Even recently, a year ago, it used to be, if I was a professional such and such doing such and such, I would building this for such and such, I would want this. You had to predicate your query with defining who was creating it in the hopes that it would improve the results. Now we don't need to. Before, long language models never remembered our previous queries with them. So we always had to restart our questions with no previous knowledge of what we've asked before. Strangely enough, we've had to go back to it, because now long language models, as they've grown, used to be you could do progressive discovery with your prompts. Like, okay, here's a base prompt, result, improve on that prompt, improve on an exploratory prompt against the results, improve from the results to the next result, so forth. And after about 7 or 8 of those questions, it seems like all the models lose their brain. They forget what you first asked. They didn't keep track of what they resulted in. They come up with other variation. They put you in this loop spiral of no answer, but always asking whether or not they need to do something for you. Now it's better to make very straightforward, simple prompts, simple results, and then take that and recraft a new prompt related to the old prompt, specifically taking the data that you need to recalculate. It's better to make a long prompt, fully detailed, so that you get a complete functionality that you want from the prompt rather than progressive prompts. But that's just a discovery that Aaron Bennett shared with me on that. So that's my hypothesis of this, is that there is a way to take our static metrics, and although not completely directly accurate to what we were trying to use them for, at least create some parameter of value proposition of an audience by combining what words are being used in asimilarity to how we know them in SEO and in the sense of predictive search that's been used for a while and so forth, knowing that the modeling's there. Looking at the high volume keywords or combination of words that we know are successful exact matches of that, defining the parameter around them of how best they would be used within a prompt, defining those prompts, keeping them to the best prompts out of it categorically by forced ranking them, and then making some scale measurement against those prompt usages on the platforms to see and validate whether you're on the right path. I've done it. It seems to be better than what I had before. And strangely enough, it has helped me make better prompts to track. At the very least, it's giving me better insights as to, well, these words are being used on search for me all the time and have been. So why wouldn't they be used by people in asimilarity? Because people are going through a transitional process of behavior right now anyway, how they use SEO to now how they have to use generative AI, but they're carrying over their old habits. We still kind of look at the fact that to get from A to B, we have to go through a process of discovery. We have to ask about, and then from what we're being shown, ask another question about to get a better clarity. And we still go through that quasi-funnel process of discovery, education, and conversion. So the road is still kind of similar. So, and all the language models have learned off of the SEO content. So how they understand data is also based on the source of the data they're using, which has been SEO, structured data, crawl engines, quantitative authority, rankings, and so forth. So we're still living in this combined world. So we should be able to combine some of the data numbers to reflect some of the things that the newer models, the agentic and the generative AI, is doing. And I think there's a relevancy to this that I'm going to continue to work on. But I wanted to share that with everyone, is that this is kind of a front edge, what we're doing kind of thing. in trying to create a good parameter around audience size in relationship to prompt tracking and relevancy of generative traffic. Because if we can do that, if we break down these things and say, well, this audience was this size, then cumulatively we can look at all the traffic that's being generated by generative AI on GA4 outside of Google, which they keep quiet to themselves. But we can give some value relationship between the two to know how well we might be doing in the sense of our volume of voice in our anticipated audience related to the terms that we're looking to be most valuable to us. So there you have it. If you have questions about this, insights, want to join again the conversation about doing this, by all means, reach out to me at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. I answer each and every email associated with the radio show and the TV show, which this is. You can watch us always on our TV channel on any smart TV. At this point, it's a long list, but the typical Googles, Apples, Amazons, Rokus, Samsungs of the world. You can catch us on all of those. Just look for Hospitality Channel. It is an app as well, Apple iOS and Google Play. Find Hospitality Channel and find it there. If you're looking at all of our previous shows, we've been doing this now close to 12 years, every week. Never missed a week. Anywhere in the world we are. You can go to hospitalitychannel.tv. There you can find all of our shows by either data broadcast, who was hosting, or topic. It includes all of our radio station ads as well, or radio station programming as well. All of our audio, where we go through tools and tips and ticks and stuff, things that we do. Trips and ticks. Tools, tips, and tricks. Yeah. Anyways, for all of you that are watching live around the world at even amazing time zones, thank you so much for always catching us. And for those that watch our recast, which we do 11:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, both Sydney, Australian, and London time, for our APAC friends and EU friends, excuse me. Thank you for watching us and or listening to us then. And of course, the radio station, which broadcasts linearly around the world, 39 countries digitally, and also on radio, Spotify, and anyways, lots of places. We do have more program beyond our own podcast. We put podcasts from really excellent, authoritative people in our industry on there as well. We have about sales. We have about accounting. We have about HR. We have about operations. We have food and beverage. It's very fascinating stuff. Anyways, speaking of which, we will be tackling a very interesting topic about group sales next week. That we are fighting the idea that we're not built for the new world of group sales business in the old model that we're currently running at hotels, the old DOSOM sales associates, food catering manager stuff. It's not built to the way people are doing business now. We're gonna have a discussion about that next week as well. So with that, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.